Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that the report of International Commission of Inquiry on Syria lacks professionalism and neutrality. Australia admits that up to 100 Australians are fighting in Syria along with terrorist groups. Army units and security forces foil an attempt to explode a car in Al-Khalidiyya neighborhood in Aleppo city. And Iran reiterates rejection of foreign interference in Syria's internal affairs and stresses peaceful solution for the crisis in Syria. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian television in Damascus. Foreign and Expatriates Ministry said that the periodic report issued by the International Commission of Inquiry last December 20th on Syria lacks the professionalism and neutrality. The statement came in a letter addressed to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The ministry added that the report was characterized by hastiness in presentation of information depending on one side only, referring that the information was provided to the Commission without verifying their validity and in a way that lacks professionalism and neutrality. The Foreign Ministry added that the International Commission of Inquiry resorted to information provided by countries which are directly involved in the crisis in Syria and have a direct interest in fueling the situation to attain gains at the expense of Syrian people's blood. The ministry said that the Commission continues to use logistic issues as pretext to justify non-use of documented and correct information provided by Syria to the UNHCR. The letter said that the Commission's presentation for what the armed terrorist groups are perpetrating are shy and too far from events.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, UNHCR, has been insisting on issuing politicized reports about the situation in Syria that lack accuracy, objectivity and neutrality. These reports do not reflect the reality of the events and are biased towards the killers of the Syrian people and the external forces supporting them. The recent UNHCR report was based on impartial media sources and ignored all the letters sent by the Syrian government, which were full of documents that clearly exposed the terrorist acts carried out by the armed terrorist groups against the Syrian people and their public and private properties. The report turned a blind eye to the main factor of the Syrian people's suffering, represented by the states that have been working to aggravate the crisis through funding, arming, training and smuggling Takfiri terrorists from al-Qaeda organization to kill the Syrians. The Commission touched upon a lot of issues, misinformation, incorrect legal arguments which lay outside its powers, including its claims about using cluster bombs, the allegation which is completely unacceptable and is so for the mandate given by the Commission to itself regarding the investigation in international humanitarian law, while it avoided dealing with several important issues related directly to the human rights. There are many important issues related to human rights which the Commission didn't address, such as the internationally dangerous incident of destroying and stealing Aleppo's factories and smuggling their contents to neighboring countries to destroy the national industry, which was thriving before the crisis. This act, in its simplest legal manifestation, is considered a breach of the right to development. The armed groups also stole warehouses of the medicines which the government obtained and secured to citizens with cheap prices, despite the sanctions imposed on importing a number of medications, while the armed groups sold these medicines to neighboring countries or spoiled them to deprive the Syrian people of them in a clear violation of their right to health. The Commission's report didn't set the side which is responsible for the crises of food, stealing and smuggling food and grain to some neighboring countries, spoiling agricultural crops to starve the Syrian people, besides sabotaging the power-generating plants and preventing repairing them systematically.
Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Saeed Jalili, reiterated Iran's position, which calls for resolving the crisis through dialogue, stressing that resolving the crisis in Syria should be through national dialogue and ballots, not through sending weapons and supporting terrorism. In a press conference in New Delhi on Friday, Jalili said that the Syrian crisis is a pressing issue and that his country presented a clear initiative for solving it, as it stressed the need to end violence against civilians and launch national dialogue as soon as possible. He stressed that democracy does not go along with bombs and weapons, and that those who utilized weapons and violence and called for foreign intervention in Syria will be held responsible before the public opinion. Al-Shammas neighborhood in Homs city is one of the neighborhoods that has rejected terrorism with the efforts of its occupants though the neighborhood lacks basic services due to the increasing number of inhabitants.
The people of the neighborhood have a problem in the electricity. As you see, the cables have been damaged. And we also have a lack in heating fuel, cooking gas, and bread. For 2 months we have been calling on the people in charge to give us a generator. Our problem is we don't have a generator. We know that there is a lack in electricity, but all we need is a generator. The population here was 2,000. Now it is about 5,000. And the generator here can't carry all of this. And every half an hour there is a blackout. The mayor agreed to solve all the problems, and there are formal paperworks to prove this. He also gave directives to the local hospital and the bakeries, and the bakeries now are making more bread. We have all the goods that we need, but there is a power problem. There is something wrong with the transformer. But other than that, everything is good and all is safe.
In Aleppo, the competent authorities have foiled a scheme by the terrorists to carry out a car bomb attack. The car that was parked in front of Aisha Mosque in the Khaldiya area was booby-trapped with 4 explosive devices, each weighing 6 to 7 kilograms. A Syrian army unit destroyed terrorist gatherings and hideouts in the towns of Mirata in Aleppo countryside, killing and wounding all of the terrorists and destroying their weapons. The army unit seized a base for launching locally made missiles and a number of machine guns. In Aleppo's countryside, the armed forces have targeted dens and gatherings of terrorists with all their weapons and ammunitions, killing or wounding all of them who were vandalizing and looting along the road of Al-Musalmiya, Sheikh Faris, Hritan, Sheikh Said in Aleppo countryside. In Aleppo city, units of the armed forces continued to pursue the terrorists, inflicting heavy losses upon them in Karm al-Katraji, Daharat Abu Rabo, in Al-Liramoun, Al-Inzarat neighborhood, Al-Kallasa area, Bustan al-Qasr and Bani Zayd. It is to be noted that armed terrorist groups stormed Ibn Khaldun hospital in Adwerna in Aleppo countryside and attacked the patients and the medical staff and vandalized the hospital's equipment and furniture. New evidence has been disclosed confirming the involvement of regional and international parties in exporting terrorism to Syria. More details in the following.
Australia has admitted that more than 100 Australians are fighting alongside the armed terrorist groups in Syria. The Australian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Bob Carr said that the government was aware of the reports that more than 100 Australians had joined the fighting in Syria since the year 2011, but had no evidence of any citizens currently involved. Carr warned that the Australians who take part in the fighting in Syria face up to 20 years in jail, reminding of the Crime Act of 1978, which states that a person shall not enter into a foreign state with the intent to engage in a hostile activity. He added that any Australian who recruits someone to fight overseas faces 7 years imprisonment. The Australian Foreign Ministry announced in a statement on January the 2nd that it was looking into an incident in which an Australian citizen who was killed while fighting in Syria alongside the terrorist groups there. The Western officials and the media have admitted that thousands of foreign Salafites and Takfiris who streamed into Syria to join the armed groups terrorists in fighting, the majority of which are infiltrating through the Turkish borders. Meanwhile, the Lebanese Al-Akhbar Daily also unveiled that Khalid Mahmoud, the leader of the so-called Fatah al-Islam, who was in a Rumiyah prison, is responsible for exporting terrorists to Syria. In a new televised speech, al-Mahmoud announced the foundation of the Jund al-Sham organization in Syria, similar to the organization that is existing in Lebanon. The Daily referred that one of al-Mahmoud's close allies, called Yahya, is responsible for recruiting and sending terrorist groups from Tripoli to Syria.
And with this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more information about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin, again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. But if you want a look at the latest business and economy, stay with us after the break. Bani has the news on sustainable agriculture in Syria and a new way to deal with the country's fuel question.
Good afternoon. The Ministry of Agriculture asserted that sustainable farming aims at reducing the production costs by 36%, raising the area's productivity and maintaining the soil's humidity. The manager of the Agriculture Directorate Department, Engineer Marwan al-Sheikh Fattouh, said that sustainable farming improves the soil and reduces water usage, which in turn increases the amount of the crops. He also pointed out that this farming method creates stability and enhances production, in addition to reducing labor and the harm caused by drought. In al-Assad Governorate, the total area cultivated with wheat reached 389,000 hectares. The Deputy Manager of the Agricultural Department, Engineer Yarub al-Ali, said that the total area cultivated with irrigated wheat reached 1,078 hectares, compared with the rain-watered wheat, which reached 2,012 hectares. On the other hand, the planted barley reached 1,063 hectares. The Ministry of Economy and Foreign Trade issued a decision allowing all importers to import heating fuel and diesel from multiple sources. The ministry also allowed them to pay for this fuel using the methods that the importers see suitable, as long as they don't violate the provisions of the importing ban. It is to be noted that this decision expires in the end of March. The ministry also issued a decision a week ago allowing all industrialists to import their needs of diesel fuel until the end of June. The Deputy Minister of Economy and Foreign Trade, Dr. Abdel Salam Ali, said that the resolutions will contribute to providing the local market with fuel during these exceptional circumstances that the country is witnessing, as there is an economic blockade, indicating that the industrialists will be able to import diesel fuel for their facilities according to the guidelines set by the Ministry of Petroleum. Oil ended its weekly dealings on a rise, supported by increasing shares and a big decline in the U.S. crude stocks, which reversed the effect of a big increase in refined products stocks. The weekly dealings of the Damascus Stock Exchange reached more than 252,000 shares. The value of the dealings exceeded $18,660,000 Syrian pounds. The DWX index recorded 769 points, declined by 1.52 points. The banking sector came first in dealings, followed by insurance and industry. The U.S. stocks closed high at the end of their weekly dealings after reports showed a slight slowdown in employment last month. The Nikkei index rose to its highest level in 22 months, with investors taking more risks after an agreement to avoid the fiscal cliff in the U.S. The European shares recorded a 22-month high, supported by positive data and led by rig contractor Transocean, which agreed to settle U.S. government charges over BP's Gulf of Mexico oil spill. The 21-carat gold reached 4,400 Syrian pounds per gram for the second day on a row, while the 18-carat gold was set at 3,771 Syrian pounds per gram. The Jewelers Association set the Rashadi coin's price to be 33,600 Syrian pounds. The 21-carat English coin was set at 35,600 Syrian pounds, while the 22-carat English coin at 37,200 Syrian pounds. The buying price of the dollar was set by the Central Bank of Syria at 78.22 Syrian pounds, while the selling price was set at 78.69 Syrian pounds. And according to the exchange rates that are issued by the Central Bank of Syria, the euro was set at 102 Syrian pounds. The bank also gave directives to the local banks and exchange offices, setting the US dollar at 76.8 Syrian pounds. And with this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.